You've decided to get into Escape from Tarkov, or you're still deciding. So let's run through what you can expect on day one. We'll cover everything from where to buy the game, the differences between all the different versions of the game, and some pointers on getting your game settings ready to go. If you haven't already watched my What is Tarkov video, click here, and that'll give you an idea of what you can expect in your Tarkov journey. Let's get started with the Escape From Tarkov website.
Now this first bit's nice and easy. Head to escapefromtarkov.com. To create a new account, at the top right of the screen, we're going to click registration, and that's going to take us to the sign up page. For some reason, email addresses from some providers don't work in the sign up process. When I tried a Hotmail account, it would not work, and I had to use a Google Gmail email address. Once you've created your account, we can head back to the main page. From here, we need to click pre-order because technically Escape from Tarkov is still in a beta and the version 1.0 is not yet released. This is going to give you a list of the 4 different versions of Escape from Tarkov you can buy, and this is where the fun begins. In ascending order of price, we have Standard Edition, Left Behind, Prepare for Escape, and the Pièce de Résistance Edge of Darkness, also known as EOD. The cheapest version of the game is going to set you back around $45, whilst the most expensive version will set you back almost $140. With such a big jump in price between the bottom and the top versions, it's important to know what features each version is going to give you so you can make the right decision on which version you want to buy. First major difference between the versions is the type of secure container that you will get at the start of the game. A secure container is carried on your PMC at all times, and anything you put in that container will be taken out of the raid with you, whether you survive or not. The 2 cheapest versions of Tarkov will give you a 2x2 container, also known as an alpha container. The 3rd most expensive version of the game will give you a 2x3 container called the beta container, and the EOD edition, which is the most expensive, will give you a 3x3 container, also known as a gamma container. Secure containers are great for storing things like meds, keys, and high-value items that you can sell to vendors. However, it doesn't help with items that need to retain their found in raid status to be handed in for a quest, as when you die, any items that are brought out of the raid in your secure container will no longer be found in raid. If you do opt for one of the 2 cheaper versions of the game, you can upgrade your alpha container by purchasing a beta container from Peacekeeper level 2 through a barter. Now there are in fact 2 containers not available at the start of the game no matter which version you buy, and that is the Epsilon container and the Kappa container, which are 2x4 and 3x4 respectively. Both of these can be achieved by completing quests. For the Epsilon container, that is Punisher Part 6, and for Kappa container, that is Collector. The next thing to check out is the starting stash size between each version. Your stash is where you're going to keep all of your gear and loot outside of a raid, so it's important to make sure that you've got enough space. It's also important to remember that your stash can be upgraded through game progression to the same size that you get by purchasing the EOD version of the game. So even though you start with less, you can still grind to achieve the maximum size stash. The basic version of the game will give you 280 slots in your starting stash. The next version will get you 380, which is an extra 36%. The next version will get you 480, which is an additional 71%, and the EOD version will get you 680, which is 143% more than the base version of the game. The top 2 versions of the game are also going to give you a little bit of a reputation bump with all of the traders to start with. Now 0.2 doesn't sound too significant, but most of the quests that you'll do at the beginning of the game will only reward you with between 0.01 and 0.04 reputation. So it's a nice little head start and saves you a few quests per trader on leveling them up. The last thing to talk about is the difference in price between the versions. Tarkov can be really expensive to just jump in at the deep end and buy the most expensive version. The good thing about the way the products are structured is that if you want to upgrade from one version to another, you only have to pay the difference. You don't have to buy the new version outright in full. What I recommend for most people is to start off with the most basic version of Tarkov. Play it for a couple of weeks and then decide after that if you think you're going to put a load of hours into it, and then decide if you want to upgrade. Some people upgrade in stages, but people like myself start with the basic one, after 2 days realize you're totally addicted to the game, and then go straight in for the EOD version. The only thing we haven't talked about, which varies in between the versions, is the equipment that you start with in your stash. The more that you pay, the more equipment you start with, but it really doesn't have that much of an effect on your progression as a new player. If you do want to investigate the difference between the game versions, you can go check that out on the Tarkov website, which I'll link in the description below. The last two things that are noted on the website are exclusive to the EOD version of the game. The first thing is that in-game, your name will appear gold and have a small crown icon next to it. And the other thing is that this version is actually going away because this version gives access to all future DLCs from Tarkov and won't be accessible in the future. If you made it this far and you've learned anything new, how about you hit that like button? And if you're interested in any more videos like this, then hit that subscribe button so you can find your way back easily. Let's jump into the next part. The first time you start Escape from Tarkov, you'll be greeted with the splash screen and then the usual accepting the T's and C's, and you'll be asked to create your player name. Now this can be changed during your play. I believe it's limited to 1 change per month. You'll then be prompted to choose either Bear or USEC as your PMC faction. Now this can be a little bit daunting at first because you don't really know anything about the game, but the main differences are the equipment that you start with in your stash. The Bears get Russian guns, then USEC get Western guns. There are a couple of differences between the factions. There is one map where Bears are aggroed at a further range by the AI enemies on Lighthouse, but also Bears can voice line in Russian, which can trick some players into thinking that they are scavs instead of PMCs. USEC is definitely the more popular choice. In the 2 wipes that I've played, the USEC to Bear ratio is normally about 2 to 1. Once you've selected your faction, you'll get to choose your character's face model and voice. The voice can actually be changed at any time, but the face you'll be stuck with. This will bring you to the main menu for Escape from Tarkov. From here, you've got access to your character's stash and loadout. You've got access to the traders, and probably most importantly, the game settings. Now, Trade24K has a great video on general Tarkov settings. He worked with a good friend of mine, Foves, which I'll link here. But now is a perfect time for you to go and check out the controls, aka the keybinds. Tarkov has tons of mechanics which require their own keybinds, so it's important to get familiar with them off the rip. So you can go and head over to the controls page and have a look through the keybinds and get a rough idea of what kind of keybinds and combinations there are for you to learn. As we go through more videos in this series and focus on specific things like healing and weapon mechanics, we will go through the default keybinds and some common things that get changed to make the gameplay easier. For me, one of the things I instantly changed is your aim down sight button by default is set to toggle, and I like to have that set to hold. However, this does cause some complications with other keybinds, so just be aware that changing one keybind can have a knock-on effect to others. We'll definitely spend some time on keybinds in future videos, but for now, let's move on to offline raids. These are great for you to get a feeling for the game and figure out some of those keybinds and what they actually do in the game. To start an offline raid, we're going to click Escape from Tarkov. We're going to choose our PMC, hit Next. For this, we'll choose Factory. We'll choose the daytime time, hit Next, and then enable offline raid and then hit Ready. That's going to load us into a raid with no AI or anything to mess with us. Once you've loaded into the raid, you can get a feel for the default controls in the game. There are controls for turning your flashlights on and off, leaning, crouching, proning, changing fire mode, checking mags. There are all kinds of keybinds that you can use this offline mode to test out before you go into a raid and risk losing all of your gear. Once you feel like you've had enough, you can just hit escape, hit disconnect and confirm leave, and that'll take you back to your stash. Now you've had the absolute crash course on how to get the game, how to get it up and running, and how to check out the keybinds without risking all of your precious gear. It's time for you to get into a raid. If you're playing solo, I would recommend trying out a scav raid. You can use the website Map Genie to get yourself a map of whichever map you want to try out. It'll be very confusing at first, but that website is going to be super helpful. If you're playing with friends and your friends are experienced, or even if they're new, try a PMC raid. When you queue in, just remember there is friendly fire. Otherwise, your first raid might go like this.
Okay, we're right behind you, Shampoo.
I'm dead.
Oh, wait. Up north, somewhere. Northeast.
Did you just kill me, Keel?
Are you at the truck?
Yes!
Oh, I didn't know where you were. I thought you were
Let's
up
go! Tradition!
Hopefully by now you've got a rough idea on what to expect on your day one of getting Tarkov and getting it loaded up and getting into your first raid. We're going to continue this series with each video focusing on one aspect of the game and try and keep it in digestible chunks so it's not too overwhelming. If there are any things you'd like to see covered in their own video, put it down in the comments and we'll see what we can do. Thanks for watching and I'll see you on the next one.